welcome to DDOCast episode 575, recorded live on Sunday, October 13th, on the morning after our drunken hardcore fun night last night. Hey, I'm awake. Hello.
You recovered?
I'm fine. I got it solid. I mean, that was like 9 hours ago that I went to bed, so, it's great. It was a lot of fun, though. Got the Hijack the Damsels run last night, and I had some drinks and played hardcore and managed surprisingly not to. We only killed one person in the group. So
my wife mentioned she was watching you guys. Well, yeah, you killed my wife, and she also mentioned that she was watching you guys and streaming afterwards, and she said it was very entertaining.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. We had a lot of fun. I'm glad people watching did as well. I will post that. You can watch it later if you want as well. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have Arkat coming back. Welcome, sir.
Happy Night Revels. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, we'll talk about Night Revels here in a bit. Our screenshot of the week, Clubber Lang's selfie gets interrupted in the 435th screenshot of the week. Thanks, Clubber Lang, for sending in this week's screenshot. I gotta say, this is kind of one of the more creative shots that I've seen in a while.
That was definitely well timed.
Yeah, it's a really nice shot there. Although I'm trying to figure out what's above. Is that the shield for the skeleton?
Looks like a shield.
And if so, it seems like maybe there's some anatomy problems going on with that skeleton.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
But it is a great shot. Great shot. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, or iTunes, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording, and the next show will probably be next weekend. Probably. You may have noticed I've been a little bit less consistent of late for a variety of reasons.
You're slacking, Patrick. You're slacking.
I am. I am definitely slacking. But hardcore was so much fun. And it's a little.
Hey, did you finally end up dying?
I've died, yes, twice.
But you had a character into the epic levels.
No. Well, I mean, I have a character that's level 20, but I haven't really done any epic stuff.
Oh, okay, all right.
Anyways, you can stay up to it by following us on social media pages at DDOCast on Twitter or our DDOCast.com with our calendar, which I generally keep up to date. On the podcast this week, so we'll talk about Night Revels a little bit. Last couple weeks in news, which is slightly less news interesting, but a little fun even then. And we're going to review Update 43 this week. Probably, I don't think we'll end up doing this in 2 shows, but you never know. There's not a lot to Update 43, which is kind of traditional for this time of year. But we'll talk about that more when we get there. For now, hey, let's talk about game news, shall we?
Knock yourself out, PJ.
So there was a Mac OS update. So Catalina, this is coming in the future. So Catalina is going to be the new Mac OS. Apple is no longer going to support 32-bit applications, which, if you're playing DDO on a Mac, that's your option, is a 32-bit application. So that's going to impact the compatibility of their wine-based client, which they, I think, just came out with, right? Like to help.
Brand new one, and now it's going to be obsolete, incompatible.
So there you go. If you want to continue to play the DDO, you should be fine as long as you don't update to Catalina. This seems kind of strange for Apple, right? Like,
oh God, no. This is
really?
This is typical of now. Ever since they put out their very first Mac, where everything was proprietary, only they made the software, they had their hardware, everything was all Apple, and they were going to do whatever the hell they wanted. And this is just an extension of that. Apple doesn't really give 2 craps about the users. Frankly, it's all about it's all about their rep. It's all about their this perception of Apple is great because it doesn't have there's no incompatibilities because everything is done by them. They control everything. It's just it really turned me off way back when Apple first started to come out.
I can tell.
You couldn't put anybody else's hardware in it. There was nobody else that made Mac software. It was, everything ran through them, and that just turned me off right from the beginning.
It seems weird though that you would say, okay, well, you can't use any 32-bit applications anymore because like there's got to be a ton of those. Like,
Oh, sure, but
not
they
that I
don't care.
pay that
They
much
don't care
attention to.
about you.
Yeah.
They want to do what they want to do.
Anyways, if you have a Mac, don't up and you want to keep playing DDO, don't upgrade to Catalina. I I am not a Mac person. I do not know if this means that you can still, because you can run a Windows environment on a Mac. At least that was my understanding. So you may still be able to run the game that way? Question mark? I don't know. I'm not that much of an IT guy.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if you know what the deal is with wine. My understanding is that it ran basically a virtual machine and it was completely separate from from various other instances of hardware and OSs and so forth and so on, and that you could simulate a Windows environment. Now, I guess the wine is dependent on the wine client is wine in general. The Windows environment is still dependent on the 32-bit, or rather the 64-bit processor, and you still have to run the wine client in the Mac OS. So maybe there's no provision to translate between a 32-bit uh, 32-bit program and versus a 64-bit into a 64-bit environment. So
Yeah,
yeah,
King in the
your
chat is
Mac
saying
users are hosed.
Gums King in the chat is saying you can boot camp a Mac with Windows, but I don't know what this new operating system will do with that experience. Hopefully it won't kill it. You can keep playing
Well,
DDO, but you may not want to be the
yeah,
first one to try.
right.
Other stuff. So we talked about this a little bit a while back. The new Adventure Compendium changes, along with some even spicier new UI updates, will be in the next full game update. So update 44. That was something that I kind of thought was going to be coming out a little early. It sounded more like it was going to be with a patch as opposed to waiting for a full update. But honestly, I can't remember from when we talked about it the first time.
Yeah, I'm curious about what these new UI updates are.
All right, it's a little bit
It's
of
very
a
very
tease.
cryptic.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll let us do some scaling. I bet some people will be happy about that.
That would be cool. That could be
Yeah.
cool.
Have you seen the pictures of people like the huge, like they're playing on these like huge
Yes.
40-inch screens and like the UI is like super
Yes.
tiny?
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, yeah. I've got a big giant curved monitor at work, and not that I play games on it or anything, but
You've
I mean, I
looked.
can imagine just everything. I mean, it would be cool to be able to play on a big curved monitor, right? And
Yeah.
have all the hot bars and so forth be of an equivalent, a size instead of little tiny little boxes in the screen you can barely see.
Yeah. Also, we had update 43 patch 1, which was released on Tuesday, October 8th. To much fanfare and stuff,
Oh,
which we'll get to in a minute. Night Revels arrived. So Night Revels will be running through November 3rd. So they still have their guide for the event. Someone asked a question about candies. So these are the ones that you can turn in the chocolate. You get a candy. It's a 1 hour on, 1 hour off buff essentially. There's 4 of them. One gives you it's a dodge bonus equal to your listen, I think. There's the one that's melee, range, and spell power. There's one for MRR and PRR. And what's the 4th one?
I don't know. There's only 2 that I bother to
Yeah,
get, so no idea.
Yeah, right. They're all festival bonuses. They stack with pretty much everything you find. So historically, they have said that they're going to expire at sometime after the end of such and such year. I think one year even they were your friend of the year before. I think last year actually might have been like 2018, you get the candy that says this will expire sometime after the end of 2017. Like,
17, yeah.
Oops. So Steelstar said that they will last until at least the end of 2019. They will likely last longer, but we only guarantee they'll last until the end of the year. So historically, I think they've gone about 8 to 10 months. They only just turned them off in August, I think, this year for what it's worth. So.
Yeah, I still have all mine. I haven't thrown them out just because I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe one of these patches will do something stupid and make them good again. So
I mean, at this point,
I
you
think
just get a new one.
I'll get rid of them now.
They're not expensive to make. They're really
No.
cheap.
No.
And actually, that's people kind of, this comes up pretty much every year, that people get on the forums and say, hey, this is really stupid that your ingredients for this event expire after the event ends and you can't reuse them. So the reason they do that, and the argument is usually something along the lines of this is really punishing to newer players. The reason they do this is because it drives more participation in the event, because you can't just stockpile them from year to year to year to year.
Yep.
Which also gets around some things like exploits that have been in the past, which I think actually impacted Maybar, the earlier version of Maybar, which is kind of the what this event looked like before Night Revels. But the other thing it allows them to do is to keep the prices lower, so you don't have to get as much, which I think is a win.
Sure.
I'm all for that. In fact, I kind of would be. I think they should do that with the Mimic Hunt event too, because they don't those roll over.
The party invitations or whatever those are.
Well, the Crystal Cove you're talking about?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever it is, the event that gives you those party favors.
Oh,
I think that's the Mimic event.
No, that's the you're talking about the anniversary.
Oh, is it?
Dungeon, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the anniversary dungeon. Yeah, I think all of those, frankly, I would be totally fine with, like, lower the costs, make it so they don't roll over.
Sure.
Great. I don't know. I'm not really sure why they because the anniversary came out after Night Revels, so I'm not sure why they didn't do that. At least I don't think they did it that way.
No, those are still good. I still have a few.
Yeah, so I don't know why they're only doing it with those and not with the other ones as well, but whatever. But I would be okay with it if they just said, okay, we're gonna wipe the slate with these, and you're only gonna get them. You can only get them once a year, but we're gonna reduce the costs. I think that's great, because it really doesn't take too long.
Completely legitimate.
Yeah. To put in perspective, like, I think I've used something like 15 keys, and I have almost enough ingredients to get a bunch of the stuff that I wanted. Like the first pass of I want to get the purple armor and stuff. We should talk about the new items briefly. No, we'll talk about Night Revels and kind of do a quick review as part of the Update 43 review, since it's kind of part of that patch.
Yep. Sure.
They did fix an issue already. The Night Revels landscape was giving expired chocolates rather than the current ones. I did not have that experience, so I'm not sure what was going on there. Other stuff. Basically, they fixed a bunch of things. The big note for Update 43 Patch 1 is that the Bloody Footprints cosmetic created by Death Follows You feat, which you get, that's the 5,000 favor feat on Hardcore, now draws another client. So now you can see my bloody footprints as I run around, which is fantastic.
That's why it's big for you.
Actually, I was running something, and someone mentioned, "Hey, these are kind of nice. I know which way you went."
Oh, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But of course, you could get those big beast guiding hands from your silver rolls and work just as well.
I realized this weekend that I have 150 red, just one color.
I just throw mine away immediately.
I have never bought them. No, I keep them, but I just throw them in the bank. I haven't needed the space. And I noticed I have like 80 of another color. And stockpiling. I might need to have some fun with them and send in a screenshot of the week or something. That's worked pretty well for people in the past. Also, the Death Watches You cosmetic. This is the 1750 cosmetic. Now works correctly on human and ASMR female characters. Although I will say, it can, if you're playing an ASMR, just be aware it can be really hard to see it if you have the headlight lights.
Right. Right. If
So,
you're what is it? The one kind of the scourge. If you're the scourge, they
yeah. Let's see. They fixed a bunch of stuff in Finding Doris. We'll talk about Finding Doris later. The native Mac OS client for Dido has been deprecated and replaced with the wine-based client solution for Mac OS, which will work for about a month until they update. Yeah. Also, there was an erroneous mention of Lotro in that deprecated Mac OS client. That's in the messaging. That's the links still remain valid. That's kind of the big part there. Lotro, if you're wondering, is going to have the same problems as DDO on that side of the coin. So,
except Latro is going to have a 64-bit client, and it should.
Well, they've been working on that, right?
Well, they've officially announced it, and they've
Yeah.
and they are working on it, so they'll have it. Just a question of when.
And my kind of assumption is that DDO will follow suit at some point in time. Probably it's the
You would
same
think.
people. So
Yeah, you would think.
I mean that's been pretty typical of things like that, right? So because free to play, which we talked about last time we had a show, kind of did the same thing, right? Like DDO went first, and then Lotro made that transition. There's other things that they've done those kind of transitions. Is one has kind of they've done it on one side and then gone to the other side and done it. So, all right. So with the with the update,
Here we go.
Yeah. So this was a fun week. So
Boy, that's a really strange word to use for it, but I guess you could if you're
there was a
if you're a
sarcastic use of
masochist.
it.
Yeah.
So after the patch on Wednesday, there were massive problems with logins. You couldn't get a character into the world sometimes, frequently. I was about 50-50 on whether or not I could get a character to even populate into the world. A whole bunch of people got stuck in reincarnations, specifically
Oh God, yeah.
true reincarnations, which I'm sure was terrifying. Monsters were not spawning correctly, which really was impacting actually the Night Revels entry or the key farming area. I'm not sure. Because
sometimes they wouldn't spawn at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't get the monsters to spawn, which meant you couldn't get the fog to come down.
Right.
So that was an issue. There was a whole bunch of kind of other stuff. So they had a hot fix on Friday. They did say that they were really confident this was not a result of the cosmetic bloody footprints drawing for everybody, which of course was what everyone latched onto first. So thankfully it's not that. So you still get to see my bloody footprints. So they did two things. So they backed out of a back-end code change that they believe may have been contributing to the widespread lack of stability, leading to a wide-ranging number of symptoms they were seeing since patch update 43.1 went live. They also did a fix to the Night Rebels graveyard, granting last year's chocolate was only added in because it was incredibly low risk and it was a large pain point in the event. So their main focus was getting the worlds back to a stable point. They did say that they're not ready to say that all of the symptoms have been fixed. However, that was the first step. It's possible it will fully resolve the loading screens, TR issues, monsters not spawning, chat dropping, intermittent lag spikes, hirelings remaining in instances, but that is not something they're ready to say is done. I think they might be willing to say that now. I have not had any issues with loading screens. I successfully did a TR, and others have reported that everything, even the ones that were stuck, it's now fixed. I haven't seen anything about chat drop, like any of these problems. I haven't seen anyone saying anything about it. So it looks like we're solid.
I really am wondering what this back-end code change was supposed to do, and how how it got screwed up.
So there may actually be a slight clue on this. So one of the things they also did during this time frame was they turned off the monster manual on Arganessen. And I believe that it was kind of a test to some extent. And so Zerka, a developer, commented on the forums that they made some performance tuning changes in the patch on Wednesday, some of which had to do with the back-end code for the monster manual. Unfortunately, they went horribly awry, and we thought that disabling some of the affected systems might alleviate the performance problems while they were preparing the hotfix that was deployed on that morning. Sadly, it didn't help, but that's what they were doing. So apparently, it may have had something to do. Sounds like at least some of the back-end stuff was referring to the monster manual. So they turned it off on Arganessen to see if that would help. It didn't appear to help, so they also backed out of the code as well. So there may be more to that coding change, but that was kind of the line that I was able to pull.
Okay.
The other thing that happened and this is actually part of the reason why we didn't have a show last week, was because they started having forum problems. By which I mean you couldn't access the forums for about,
For
what,
3
5
days? 4 days?
I think it was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, came on Monday. So somewhere in that range, right? That the forums were just done. I don't know.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, the authentication thing.
Is that what it was?
Working too well. Yeah.
Yeah, something got totally borked. That was actually part of the reason why we didn't have a show last week, because there wasn't really much to talk about other than that.
I don't know. You could have a bitch session that could last a pretty long time. You might have had a decent show out of that.
I don't find that fun or that interesting to listen to. Like, there's a time and a place for it. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's a reason why we had that conversation around things like, not to bring up a total pain point for you, but the changes to everything is nothing. You're right. Like, there's a time and a place to have those conversations.
Oh, I can have that conversation right now again if you like.
No, that's okay. I think we hashed that out pretty good. We hashed that out on DDOcast a couple times and on DDO Splat a couple times. I think we'll hash that one out. Anyways, so that's some of the stuff that they've been dealing with. Right now, everything seems to be great. Like, the forums seem to be working great. I haven't had any problems more than normal logging in and going through load screens or anything like that. So,
all right. So if the things, if everything if the DDO forums or the game takes a massive crap, then we have you to blame for jinxing it.
Yes, because the cosmic forces in the universe pay attention to what I say specifically.
That shit is real. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, and the Steelers are going to win today.
Oh, I don't know. I hope so.
No, I'm trying to use that.
Play tonight.
I'm trying to use my cosmic powers here. Anyways, moving right along. Bonus days. So you can get double commendations of valor through October 14th. That's interesting. Monday? What if that was a typo?
Yeah, they probably mean through.
Yeah, usually it's the
like
3rd.
10 o'clock on Monday or something.
Well, I mean, that would indicate that they're not going to turn it off until
Tuesday.
Till Tuesday, which is kind of strange. Usually, that's not what they do there. So it's kind of usually it would come off today. I'm actually stalling to check the Chronicle, see if it says anything different. No, it says through October 14th. Is tomorrow Columbus Day and they're observing Columbus Day?
Yes, that must be it. It is. Tomorrow's an official national holiday, so all the banks are closed, so they might be closed too.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that usually it's just like banks and I mean, even schools don't really observe it. So I don't know. Anyways, apparently it's gonna go through the 14th. Yay! Enjoy your extra day.
Extra day of more things than you can possibly use.
Hey, heart seeds, man.
That's true.
And there's they get used every once in a while for stuff and for crafting bits and things like that. Mm-hmm. So every once in a while, I get some. Okay, I'm gonna craft something. I turned all of my combinations of valor into heart seeds. Dang. Anyways, actually, the biggest problem with those is they don't stack enough in my bag. Right? They only stack to 2,500. Need to up the stack size on that one. Store news. The Inquisitive is now on sale in the DDO store, so if you've been looking to buy that a la carte, you now can do so.
495 turbine points.
That seems low.
That seems low to me too. I thought that was very reasonable.
What is you know what the other ones are? Off the top of
That
your
are
head?
for sale in the store. Oh God, what do you call it? The one that you get for favor and House Canada.
Oh,
The
Falconry is
Artificer.
no, like Falconry is 495. So, you know,
Oh, okay, you're talking about.
they seem to actually all be 495. So, I guess we
Okay,
probably should have expected this.
all right.
But,
Okay,
495 is not bad at all.
no, not at
You can
all.
also still, of course, you can get it from favor if you want. You only have to do it once on a character, but it's character specific. They all are. You can do Vishtani, Harper Agent, and Inquisitive through favor. I can't remember if you can. I don't. Is Falconry like way high or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like so you need 700 favor of the particular
It'd be free
faction, and
agent,
I
I
can't
think.
remember which faction it is.
Probably 700 free agent favor.
Free agent.
Which is a
Okay.
lot more work than the other ones. Woo-wee.
Yes.
So if you're gonna buy one, buy the Falconry and get the other ones from favor.
Hmm.
um. Anyways, so there you go. You can get that from the store now. The sales rise again. 20% off of select reincarnation items, healing potions, spell point potions, and quest elixirs through October 17th. The coupon code is a medium guild renown elixir. The coupon code is guild MED. You get one per account through October 17th. Also, there is a special free coupon code. You can get 3 lasting night revels keys. I believe the lasting ones you can use them next year. They will not expire.
Correct.
The coupon code for that is the number 2 spooky, the number 4 me. 2 spooky for me. But the 2 and the 4 are the numbers, not the words. So there you go. If you want to do that, you can absolutely get those keys. Hey, free keys. That's great. I've already used mine.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about community news, the 354th Chronicle. Because of the forum problems, there was no Chronicle last week, so it's just the one for this week. Also, before we get too far into that, there is a kind of a programming note with this. All of you has been handling this for the last 2-ish years, I think. However, all of you has moved on to another opportunity and is no longer with Standing Some Games. So Cordovan is taking it back. He's also going to be moving it to Fridays. It has been coming out on Thursdays. The store sale news and bonus day stuff will still be announced. That stuff's actually announced separately as well, and it will still continue to do so. So we'll just get this out, which is, that was all coming out kind of at the same time, which always kind of seemed a little weird to me. Like,
Yeah.
here's a forum post about bonus day and store news, and here's the chronicle that contains both of those informations. But they will still be announcing what those are at their normal cadence. And I think Cordovan usually announces what they're going to be on his Wednesday live stream as well.
He does.
So you can also find out there as well. So that's not the only thing that's changing is the chronicle's moving to Friday, which I'm assuming has something to do with kind of his normal work cadence and stuff that he needs to take care of. Let's see. Community spotlights. It's Henshin Mystic versus Fist Monk in Strimtom's latest deep dive. If you want to believe what the devs say, the Fist Monk is probably going to win that fight, because they have been steadily nerfing hand ramp monks over
They
the
crushed the quarterstaff monk with their nerfs to Henshin Mystic.
Oh, that's true. They did that too, right?
Yeah.
Because they were trying to tone down hand wrap builds as well, I think, and they kind of got caught in the crossfire. They mentioned something about like trying to possibly boosting those back up. They did come up with a new feat, Swords to Plowshares. I don't know how well that works in their favor, but anyways, Axel is celebrating his 5th anniversary of his channel on YouTube, so you can check out his videos there. The guild for the week. Doofensmirts Evil Incorporated is a new player-friendly, non-zerging guild on Orion looking for more players. The guild plays most nights and is very laid back, so you can find out more about them. The comment for the week. What is the fastest food in Sharn?
All right. So I put a comment in on this on the God, what is that? The Chronicle,
Yep.
and I said, whatever it is, it's not served on the source sleds.
Let's say something. I'm trying to come up with something clever about like dropping stuff from height. No, you get the terminal velocity,
Right.
falling food, something like that. Let's see, the fan site news. Damsel's DDO found the Soul Splitter in episode 118, so that was their last podcast. DDO Players News talked about cheeseburgers. We had a shout out for DDO Kasplat. We'll, we'll talk more about that in a minute here. Tath Games played DDO on YouTube. MJ and crew from Massively OP played DDO on a stream. Ginger Spice ran a Tiefling Druid. Nimvin streams regularly on Twitch. His link there is not spelled incorrectly like the name. On the Edge of Evil, one of our D&D night groups got a shout out for their episode last weekend. Rock and Friends and Newbie Cabra also got shout outs. And you can still check out Cordovan's weekly lunchtime live stream. I think he's mostly playing on hardcore at the moment, which seems appropriate. The D&D night on DDO stream, so that is Sundays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. This weekend, today, time of this recording, it will be the group that I am DMing, D&D Kasplat. We also, a couple weekends ago, premiered the other project I've been slowly working on. I have converted the grotto into Fantasy Grounds D&D, which we had a lot of fun doing. There were many Easter egg game references in there. I think the first thing the players did after I kicked things off was ask if they could skip the Korthos storyline. I told them no, they hadn't played on this server yet. In any case, my secret project, I'm calling it the Stormreach Chronicles for D&D Night. That is, it's going to be an anthology. People will kind of rotate in and out as players. It's not going to be an every month thing by any means, because what I'm literally doing is translating DDO to 5th edition Fantasy Grounds, which is our sponsor for the D&D Night and DDO stream, it's a virtual tabletop thing. It's great. It's fantastic. It's one of the only slight downside to it is that you have to it doesn't freestyle super well, because a lot of the functionality of it works better if you've got it kind of programmed in already.
Sure.
But it's a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun doing it, so you'll see that again and again. D&D Kasplat, which is my group with the Damsels and Drac, that and Nobob, Rent, and Tay as players. That's coming up tonight as well. So we should have a lot of fun doing that. DDO Kasplat, we will probably play this week. We were off last week. We'll be off the week after, but we might get in a week this week. We'll kind of.
Oh, good.
But we're having fun doing that. We just finished the new Sharn stuff, which is talking about again in a minute.
How convenient.
Yeah, there may be a correlation here. But we've been having fun doing that as well. Okay, a little bit of lightning post. Fuzzy Duck wrote in, said he's been playing DDO on. He had been playing DDO on Devour, the European servers, for about a year when DDO went free to play. He pretty much moved immediately over, choosing Telanis. It was a bit of a wrench having to start from scratch again, as he just capped a character for the first time. However, he was able to transfer the character over when they were shut down. But those regrets soon vanished when he arrived on Korthos and gasped that there were people there.
Amazing.
It is kind of nice to have.
I didn't
people
realize
there,
the
right?
European servers had become so
Yeah, I didn't either, actually.
unpopulated.
Yeah.
Or depopulated.
He says he's almost always had a positive experience with DDo's community in general. I think that's kind of normative.
Yeah.
There were a few funny moments in the group where he'd say it was time for him to finish up and go to bed, and he'd go, "Oh, wait, are you a kid?" Or "No, it's 10:30
No,
there."
it's just late over here.
8 to 9 hours ahead.
Right.
So Also, a few U.S. players he ran with mentioned that they could understand some of European Union players over voice better than some of their own countrymen, which was always amusing. Yeah, I can believe that. Uh,
Yeah.
although for whatever reason, like I don't typically find myself playing with people with really thick, like regional American accents,
No. No,
especially
not unless you play with Big Ol or somebody like that.
I mean, especially considering that like the studio is in Boston. You'd think we'd get a few more Boston accents, which I don't usually gonna get.
Well, the devs don't play their own game. Come on.
Well, the devs also like mostly moved to Boston.
True.
What do you mean the devs don't play it? There was a dev who made it to like 50,000 Reaper XP on hardcore server. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah, there was someone on the top of the leaderboard. I don't know if it was like for everyone
I
or just
thought. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Now, hang on. I thought that was just they were just testing something, or
yeah, it was not intentional. But
right.
there was a dev that was on there with like 50,000 Reaper XP, and people were like, "Wait, what?" Or maybe it was 500,000. I don't know. There was a dev erroneously on the leaderboard for Reaper XP.
Right.
Uh, anyways, he said another unexpected upside of being a non-U.S. player is that because of the low European Union server population, we'd gotten very good at being self-sufficient. U.S. players hadn't yet developed those skills quite as universally as he can remember them. Yeah, I can definitely see that. But that, combined with existing knowledge of the game, would often surprise players who were already well established on the server and had evidently been expecting complete newcomers from initial free-to-play surge.
Sure.
That can happen. Right, I think that means we're gonna review update 43. So, one of the things you'll notice about this review compared to some of our other reviews is there's really just not as much stuff going on here, right? The update at this time of year is typically pretty low key. This is where we got Tower of Frost was this time of year. I think some years it's just been Night Revels. So usually there's a little bit more. There's more system-y stuff that we didn't see here this time around. My suspicion is that's probably because those people are hard at work getting Alchemist to work, because it sounds like Alchemist is going to have very different mechanics than we're kind of used to.
Right.
But we did get 6 quests, which for this time of year is really
Great.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Considering,
I said,
Tower of Frost was just the one.
yes. And it was not historically a very popular quest, although I think that
Right.
that was driven, I think, more by loot than anything else.
Mm.
The quest is fine. I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to figure out that puzzle. I've always just kind of cheated on that one, which is like the only puzzle in the game that I typically cheat with. But in any case, so we got 6 new quests, which was great. There was a let's see there, Finding Doris, Safety in Numbers, the Underlane Assignment, Members Only, the Offshore Account, and Soul Survivor. And then there's also the loot, which we'll talk about, and then we'll kind of wrap up with briefly talking about Night Revels, and kind of the new stuff there. So let's start with the quests, which the last 3 times that's what we did for DDOCast Splat. I have only run them once, and only in that group because I was mostly focusing on hardcore. But let's talk about the quests. What did you think about them?
So I kind of was expecting, 6 relatively short quests, kind of like, the 7 or 8 cogs quests. Those are all pretty short
Sure.
and easy and
Most of the
easy
Sharn ones are pretty
to do.
short
So I was
too.
sort of expecting. I beg your pardon?
I said most of the Sharn quests
The
are really
the
short too.
oh, you know, the, maybe I'm just phrasing it the wrong way. In comparatively speaking, the cogs quests were much shorter than the regular Sharn,
Yeah.
the Sharn quests. So I was expecting, 6 more relatively, comparatively speaking, short quests. And for like a couple of them, like Safety in Numbers, that one could be a very, very short quest, and Members Only can also be a very, very short quest. Um, but there's a couple others that are fairly long, like Finding Doris, the Underlane Assignment, and Soul Survivor. Those are comparatively long, especially if you're doing it for the first time. Now
Yeah.
you can cut some time off of the underlane assignment and Sole Survivor, if, once you understand what's going on and you figure out the most optimal path and all that sort of stuff is concerned, so you can cut down a fairly long quest into, I guess, probably a medium length quest. But finding Doris is long no matter what you do.
Yeah, the thing that stuck out to me with these is not just like the length of the quest, but the reason why they're lengthy, which is a lot of them have a hide and seek mechanic, by which I mean you have to find something that is uh I'm not entirely sure if they're all randomized, but certainly there seemed like they're what's the one with the crest? The one that we're
Yeah,
looking for the
that's the
crest for?
underlane assignment.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are randomly placed.
and uh the quest objectives even told us we found them all, and we were still missing one, which
Right.
really didn't help anything. Uh, but that was the thing that really kind of stuck out to me is that, and like I find that that's okay in small doses, but
Yes.
in general I'm not really a fan of quests where it's here's this sandbox area, go find 4 points that randomly chosen points per run. Uh, and there were like it felt like there were several of those uh, in these quests. It was a lot of open sandbox with go explore and find these different things within that. Now some of those may I think are actually like fairly set in stone about where they are, uh, but it was kind of frustrating. I did find that kind of frustrating, just because there was too much of it. I think
Hmm.
there wasn't. Uh, a lot of these quests don't have a clear path, and they're pretty big about it as well, right? Like finding Doris, like the various areas that you're exploring are big.
Right.
It's not small. Like the same is true of a lot of quests in Ravenloft, but those quests for me are much more contained, and they're also much less randomized.
Hmm.
So you can path them a lot better.
Sure.
I did like the story though. Like the story was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of worked for me. Uh, I kind of liked how the story resolved. I did find the final quest, Soul Survivor. The
Hmm.
mechanics in that quest were not. They didn't really feel like they were really clearly explained or very intuitive.
Yeah, that puzzle at the end, especially. That I've seen multiple posts on the forums about people asking for help about, okay, what am I supposed to put Doris in? What body did she get? How about, should I do the blue, lights first or the blue or the yellow parts of the puzzle first? There's a lot of that stuff is really just found out just by purely by experimenting. And
Yeah,
since there's just so many parts to it, it's hard to figure out if you don't like write stuff down and create a flow chart and all that sort of stuff. It can be a little bit frustrating for solo players who've never done it before, especially.
having run it the one time and kind of figured it out, and having had conversations with people and particularly some of the devs about like why quests are kind of designed with specific things in mind about how to teach players about mechanics and stuff like that. Like I can see what they were going for and how they were trying to. There's like that first time you find that puzzle, like it's teaching you how to make it work, how to use the soul splitter kind of device
Oh,
to
the
pull
first
a
the
soul.
yeah the first puzzle in that
Yeah,
in that
that's there
yeah.
to teach you how to do it, but it wasn't really like when you get to the end part, it wasn't clear to me that I was reusing the same puzzle that I had just done
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a
that the
different.
first puzzle did yeah, sorry, the first puzzle didn't really translate over to the second, final puzzle, the lessons that you were supposed to learn.
Well, the disconnect for me on that was more about we use those puzzles in a different way first
Mhm.
because you have to you light the blue, pull a lever, light the green, pull the lever, Right. So it's being used in a different mechanic
Right.
first, and then you have to recognize that you're supposed to reuse it in the way that you use it in a different place before. But because you're doing that, because you're having that experience of using it in a different way, it wasn't clear to me very quickly that I was supposed to use that to do the same thing.
Right. Right. Exactly. They didn't translate well. They didn't.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
And if there was a hint there, I missed it.
Yeah.
But like I don't remember there being something like it feels like there could have been something like one of the PCs there or the NPCs being like, "Hey, use the soul device. Suck my soul out and then put it back in." Like
Mhm.
they didn't really give you a lot of hint on how that mechanic was supposed to work.
It wasn't very tutorial if it was meant to
Right.
be.
Yeah. Um I can see how they were trying to make how to teach you that mechanic and then get it to translate, but it really it didn't. And I kind of recognize, like, for me, I tend to be someone who has a pretty good intuition about how to get things to work. So
Mhm.
I usually kind of have this experience that if I'm having trouble kind of intuiting and figuring out how it's supposed to work, then most people are probably also having a difficult time or kind of figuring out how to work. So
Sure.
I think those are kind of the two things I kind of took away from the quest as being kind of negatives. Is that go find stuff around a map and that mechanic at the end. There were some fun moments though. I liked the pit fighting little spot in I think Finding Doris. That was kind of
Finding
fun.
Doris, yeah. Yeah,
There's
that was cool.
and I like the characterization they gave to that pit boss. That was kind of fun. There's some stuff that you liked about the quests.
I liked, Offshore Account. I thought that it was a very creative quest overall. You had the talking lobster or the talking crustacean, I guess is
Yeah,
that what they labeled it. I like that quest a lot. And Soul Survivor is a cool quest as well with the mechanics. I did like the end puzzle, even though it took a little while to figure out. Those are the best kinds of puzzles for me because it just turning the tile, the tiles and getting the light going to the right crystal. That's been done. Good God, it's been done
I mean since the beginning.
and done and done and done. It's just I'd like a little bit more of a challenge, and I think the end of Soul Survivor was good.
I like the feel of that, like the underwater base in Soul
Hmm.
Survivor was kind of
Sure.
fun. It looked really nice. Um, I think the quests all kind of looked pretty good. There's a couple new areas. It felt like. I think that the one you're talking about, you're following the lobster around.
Hmm.
Uh,
Offshore account.
had a couple nice little spots.
Yep.
And the entry area for Soul Survivor um was kind of fun. Uh, I do kind of like that. There's a lot of kind of extra things you can do in the quests that are really good for if you're the kind of
Right.
person who likes to look around corners and
Sure.
find the bells and whistles in a quest and
Turning off the
Easter
security
eggs.
system is one.
Yeah. Um,
That's good.
there was the optional. I think it was an offshore account. Uh, the optional with the manicore that you can choose to kill it or take its loot.
Right. That's the one you had to climb up the outside. No, that was in where was that? That
Was
was
that not?
in that was
I thought it was the one that ended
outside.
up with that was the outside area before you go find the
Yeah.
crustacean guy.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
the Mario skills involved with that one were a little annoying, but
That one was a little extreme. Yeah, I agree.
um, although I do appreciate an occasional Mario experience to kind of reward people for having good control there. Although you were trying to do it in a bear form, which is
I know that was
like
like a
twice
dumb
as
way to do it.
difficult.
I should have just changed to my human or rather
Yeah,
a celestial form and done it. But
having run around in bear form on hardcore for a while, like you really start to notice that it's a much harder thing to figure out where your avatar actually needs to land because
yeah,
you're much wider.
yeah,
It was kind
yeah.
of a trick to learn. So Um,
I liked Safety in Numbers. That's the second quest, and that's the
mm,
one that you can. That's the one where you basically run and follow the guiding hands until the end, where the rally is.
yep.
That one you can stealth through, and basically ignore all the fights except the end fight. And believe me, I'm farming for a piece of equipment out of that quest right now, and I really appreciate that.
I'm sure you do. Um, I did like the. I thought that was kind of a clever use of the Bigby's hands, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, which is funny because I've always kind of thought of the Bigby's hands as, I mean, they're kind of this lore neat thing, but they've never really felt like they were part of the game to me. Uh, until that point where like they're like, oh, there's actually like the world is actually using these things. Like it's not
right.
just like this convenient thing that, I mean, it is this convenient thing that they gave us, but so that was kind of neat. I appreciated that.
Sure, sure. Players won't use those, but so if the players don't use them, you had to figure out some way to use them, and this is a good
Sure.
way to use them.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or should we move on to the loot?
Regarding the quests, members only. That was another quest that I actually liked, and
Hmm.
and again, that's one of those quests where you could do a lot more than you absolutely need to,
Oh yeah,
but I figured out a short way to do it, and the quest is actually kind of fun. So I like that one too.
a good puzzle too.
Yeah,
That tile puzzle felt pretty. Uh, it wasn't hard, but it kind of made you think at the same time because like
yeah. You had to pay attention, or else you'd have to, and the solution it's more or less given, or earlier in the quest. And if you were not paying attention, you would have missed it, and
or if
you
you didn't
you
go that
try to
way.
do that, puzzle, then you're going to get baked. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, you do have to pay attention in that quest.
I will say, just in general, you kind of touched on it earlier, but like I do feel like the use of, you kind of mentioned that the use of the tile puzzles in these quests, they're not used a ton, but the places they are used, like they're not difficult puzzles.
Right.
It's not hard to. The challenge of them is to not activate something you don't want to, more than
Right.
anything
Anything in
else.
red, you do not want to turn on.
Yeah. So all right. Let's talk about the loot. Anything kind of stand out for you in the loot that you're looking for?
Um, I kind of liked the legendary sunken slippers. That's the one with all the potency, the insightful
Hmm.
and the quality potency on it. Those are useful for for like wizards or sorks that need to have spell power of different elements, for example,
Right.
um, in order to deal with a situation that you're not normally prepared to handle. So I thought those were pretty nice to that they put in. There's a couple of other things a couple of other decent items in there. The one of the sets, the Feywild Dreamer set, looks to me like it was really more geared toward like a spell singer type bard,
Or a
uh,
warlock, a fey warlock
warlock.
as well.
Mm,
Kind of stood
Yeah,
out to me
yeah,
there.
okay, yeah, warlock. Yeah, the acid for the goo thing, but unfortunately, there's no fire spell power associated with that set. And then one of the non-set items, I believe it's one of the orbs, not the concentrated chaos, but the other one, solid sound. That one looks like that one's specifically for a spell singer bard, because it gives you
Yeah.
the sonic spell power and the devotion spell power. So for positive stuff. So I unfortunately, I mean, I've seen what the concentrated chaos orb looks like visually speaking, but I still haven't found the solid sound orb, so I have no idea what it looks like. Although Linabelle, I guess in an earlier loot thread for this particular pack said that they both looked gorgeous. So I'm really looking forward to see what the solid sound looks like.
Yeah,
Um,
the wiki doesn't even have a picture of it,
no, it
unfortunately.
doesn't, and I'm kind of looking for because if I get it, I'll post it in the wiki.
Yep.
What else? The Cloak of Balance, looks pretty good. Although visually speaking, it's black and white. It's not all that impressive, but for the stats on it, freedom of movement, insightful seeker, pairing, those are all very nice. And of course, the nearly finished gives you quality strength, dex, or con. So that's pretty special right there. That's pretty good. So this is a good item, the Cloak of Balance.
Yeah. I think there's some decent items there. I think they fit well within the landscape of the Sharn stuff. Kind of fill in some gaps, especially with the sets, right? Because uh you've got the one with the kind of Sonic-y, or not necessarily Sonic, but like the Warlock, maybe
Well, that's the
Bard
Feywild Dreamer
one.
set.
Yeah. There's also the Profane Experiment set, which is a pretty decent set for something like an intelligence-based assassin or Harper agent or artificer kind of stuff.
One of the devs specifically hinted very, very strongly that the Profane Experiment set was really geared towards the new
Alchemist.
Alchemist
Yeah, I think we'll
class.
definitely see
So,
that as well, because it does kind of have that read, right, of like it's got some sneak attack and double strike or double shot, intelligence,
hmm
constitution, and 50 universal spell power. When you think
yep,
about it, like that 50 universal spell power doesn't really quite, other than artificer, doesn't really quite track with the rest of that set. Um, in terms of like what it's kind of like builds you're gonna typically see. Yeah, so
right,
it definitely seems like an artificer, uh, or not artificer, an alchemist kind of uh thing going on there.
sure,
Um,
sure, but it'll work pretty good for an artificer though,
yeah,
too.
absolutely.
So,
And then the Dreadkeeper, which of course just screams Pale Master, which was one of the things that was really kind of noticeably absent from the Sharn sets.
right,
So it's good to see all that kind of stuff in there as well. Um, yeah, it seems there's nothing in here that really like stood out to me personally. I think a large part of that has to do with like the characters that I'm really kind of like the two characters that I currently have the lowest on my depth chart, if you will, which means they're probably like never really gonna get played again.
hmm
Are my Warlock and my Pale Master.
mm.
So
Yeah, I'm struggling to, I've got it Pale Master, and I'd like to play him again, but it's I just have, like you, I have a very, very bad case of alt-itis,
yeah,
and it's just, you're right, it's just really low down on the totem pole, unfortunately. There's a couple other non-set items I'd like to just touch on briefly, if
sure,
that's all right.
absolutely.
So I still don't get what the story is with the hook, the sickle. I really, do we really have a lot of druids out there that use sickles?
I
I
don't
kind
know.
of don't think so, but I guess there might be a few.
You're probably right. I mean, I think a large part of that though is this idea that it really is kind of trying to have a good um variety. I mean, we have other sickles in the game, so it's,
Sure.
and if you go pure druid, right, then a sickle might be
Yeah, but
a
why
good
wouldn't
option
you
for
just
you.
use a scimitar? I mean, scimitars are going to be way better than sickles.
Sure.
So, so I'm not sure I
I mean,
understand the
the difference
full
is really just
utility
a
of.
little bit of damage, right? Maybe one crit profile or crit range.
The sickles are what, I think 19 to 20, and then so it's going to be two extra crit numbers for scimitar if you have improved critical. So 17 to 20 versus
No, they're 20
16.
times two. So yeah, I
Oh well,
mean,
that's even worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. No, I
So
I don't
yeah.
disagree with you. Um, but I appreciate that they try to keep a rolling stock, right? Because then what happens is you end up with like what happened with Inquisitive, right? Like they came out with this Inquisitive idea, and it was like, oh, hey, this is really kind of neat. But there's like hardly any named light and heavy crossbows in the game.
Right, right. Well,
So
you were stuck with using that one from the the coil one with the shoot the
the
rat
rat
catcher.
catcher, yeah.
Yeah, you were stuck with using a level 10,
There's a
light
level
crossbow, the
2.
rat catcher, or was that what it was?
No, there's also a level 2 in the catacombs.
Okay, right, okay, but rat catcher turned out to be way more powerful than I expect in conjunction with the Inquisitive than the devs were expecting because
Hmm.
people were using the rat catcher all the way up, through, into the 20s, So that thing was a little overpowered for low level Inquisitives. Um, and then you got a couple of other ones. The Diplomancer was put out, as part of one of the celebrations, I think.
Right.
Um, and then we got a few after in the Sharn and so forth. So I think probably the Inquisitors are okay with as far as heavy and light crossbows are concerned. Then we had this other thing in the non-set items, the Twisted Missile, which is a dart. Now, the only reason why they put this dart in here is for
Alchemist.
the DPS tree of an alchemist. And I got to tell you, this dart, I mean, it's probably better than any dart in the game that's in presently, but and it's going to be the default one to use because there isn't anyone better.
See, this
But
is what
I
happens
am
when you
not.
don't do things like put sickles in the game consistently.
I am not impressed with this Twisted Missile thing. So they better Linabelle better start working on making some more
More
darts
darts. I'm
available.
sure we'll see more darts. I'm kind of hoping that because they are kind of also slowly going back through and retweaking some of the gear in different levels.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's kind of been put on hold because I think the person who's mostly been doing that, Linabelle, has really mostly been working on Alchemist. But it would be kind of neat if they kept continuing that, right? Like they would have it be that they would have it kind of show up, like add some of these missing pieces and elements. That would be
Hmm.
kind of something that'd be kind of neat. It has been pointed out in the chat that the Swords to Plowshares feat does improve sickles. It's quarter saves, commas, and sickles. So it's a +1 morale bonus to their critical threat range. So they're
Yay!
yay. I mean,
Uh,
so there you go. Say for what it's
it's
worth.
helpful.
I mean, I actually like that approach though. They did it with the Knights training feats too, right?
Yeah,
Like to try
yeah,
to bring these other weapons closer to the obvious good performers like a scimitar or a
right.
Kopesh. So I
Sure.
appreciate that.
Well, but they would not have had to have done that, create a new feat, for example. If what's his name? God, who's in charge now?
Severlin?
Severlin. I always got the impression that Severlin, or maybe it was his predecessor, basically laid down the law that you will not make item weapons with different crit profiles. I guess it had trouble. There had been issues with,
Oh,
um,
you're
you
talking
know,
about
the
when they wanted to curb the runaway
yeah,
crit profile stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Um I mean, I understand why they did that. And I think it's far enough removed that I don't really have a problem with it because I mean, you could get like a 13 to 20 on like a bow or something
sure,
silly like that. Like that's obscene. Um, there are still, I think there are weapons and stuff that do show up occasionally with a bigger profile than normal. Um,
it's very rare.
yes,
It's very rare.
and it usually is one of the like if you think about how they usually put things with like 4 things on them, that's
Hmm.
kind of part of it. Um, usually these days I think they're typically putting things like impact or keen on them,
Right,
which does the same thing but it doesn't stack
right,
for those balance reasons.
right.
So
Yeah, but I'm okay with the way they do the keen right now and the bludgeoning thing because if it's like Keen 5, for example, not only does it double the profile, but the crypt profile, but it also
Adds damage.
adds W, it adds
Yep.
a couple of Ws. So that I'm fine with that. That I think that works well.
Yeah, I think it does too. I think it really works, and I think they're in a pretty good spot. And I like that. You kind of go into that. We're going down a little bit of a rabbit trail here, but that idea of like having a bunch of weapons with expanded crit profiles. Well, if you do that for like a Kopesh, then it's kind of shepherding everyone into more of that problem of everyone using a Kopesh, as opposed to here's some stuff that makes a sickle better.
Right.
So that
Well, see, what you do is you don't do it to the Kopesh. You
sure,
don't give them an
yeah,
expanded crit range or multiplier, but you do it for you create a longsword that gives you an additional threat range, so that
or you make a
so you
feat that
get
does it for
people
all of them.
moving towards longswords as opposed to Kopeshes.
I think their methodology right now is to do that with feats. We saw that with the Knights training swords to plowshares.
Right.
They kind of hinted that was something they were looking at doing more proactively, so that they'll
I,
have.
I just I just don't like taking feat slots.
Well, you got to take a feat for Kopesh too,
You don't
so
have to. You don't have to take
I guess
Kopesh. You can
sure.
just take the -4 to hit.
I guess that's true. I don't know. There's some interesting. I like that they're doing interesting things with it, and it makes you think about and gives you more build choices, right? So, um,
True.
and I was really enjoying because I took Knights training on I was doing an ASMR Scourge, Mace dual wielding Barbarian Ravager build, and it was a lot of fun. And then I was texting and driving and ran into a trap on hardcore, and that was the end of that. Don't text and drive,
Oops.
kids. Yeah, it was very much an oops. So, you know, but I like that they give me those options and kind of have some interesting things that they can do like that. So, I think we should transition to Night Revels and talk about the Night Revels
You don't want to
changes.
talk about the filigree sets?
We can talk about the filigree sets, sure.
Nah, I just
I mean, I believe they show up on the same in all the Charn stuff, right?
yes.
Yeah, great. Because I do like the Radiant Shield one does look very nice for a tank.
For a tank, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my what do you call it? My bear druid in Kasplat will eventually, when we get up to 30th level, we'll TR back into my paladin build, and this is going to be one of the filigree sets
Yeah,
that he'll use. I mean, the guild. I mean, you Benton. The our guild master has been crying for other
tanks.
tanks, and I'm going to make my guy a guild tank, and
Yeah,
this is going to be one of the sets that he'll definitely have slotted.
yeah. It's a great set for. I mean, you can get plus 100% melee threat increase, which actually in today's world seems kind of small because like they
Yeah,
tripled
it
like
does.
everything else, right?
Yeah,
But
considering some of
it's
the
okay.
enhancements give you like plus 450%.
Yeah.
So
But hey, every bit helps.
every little bit helps.
Which was a great change because I've been saying for a while now that the amount of DPS that people can put out in a really short amount of time is
Oh,
just
no kidding.
clocking all of that stuff. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, let's see. Now let's talk about Night Revels. Yeah.
Sure.
Have you changes to Night Revels? Let's talk about the quest change, and then we'll talk about the new items.
Okay.
So the quest change is they took out. This is the first time they've done this. They took out a quest. They took out Kobold News Ringleader, and they put in Smashing Pumpkins.
Yes.
Which I'm going to presume will kind of be a methodology going forward. Which the way that they change things makes sense because you'll have two quests that give each ingredient.
Yep.
Makes pretty good sense to me, which I like because then I can choose which one I want to run. Right.
Right.
Have you run? How much have you run the new one, and what do you think of it?
So the new one is just like, Smashing Pumpkins is just exactly how it sounds. The quest, at the Baudry Carbon quest where you running around and
You smash
there's no
boxes,
monsters in it except you smash boxes. It's that quest except you smash
pumpkins.
pumpkins.
Yep.
But
There
there
are
are some
monsters.
monsters in it, some animated pumpkin type things, and some other and another undead thingy. I forget what it is, shadows or something. Um, but you run around smashing uh, pumpkins, but I tell you, it's a lot more than 50 pumpkins. When you first
150.
walk in, it tells you got to smash 50 pumpkins, and you're like, oh, okay, this will be easy. And then you smash your 50, and then the next objective is smash 100 more pumpkins.
So
So
when I went in the quest, like I looked up the objectives right away and said
right,
smash 100, smash 50, smash 100. I'm like, oh, so I'll smash 50 and then I'll smash 50 more and I'll get 100. Nope, it's 150.
that's 100 more, right?
Although
So 150 total.
I will take a little bit of the sting out of that because when you start running, it's like there's not very many of them, but the
Right.
final room has like 50 of them just in that last room. But yeah,
So yeah, so it's a fairly straightforward, you know, break things and the thing is there's no time limit on this one. So whereas the cardamom quest where you have to smash boxes, there's a time limit.
yeah,
This one has no time limit.
yeah. I would say that it is easily my least favorite of them. Like it's just the least amount of fun. It's not. I think part of the problem is there's, especially like in the early going, there's just not a lot of pumpkins to
Hmm.
smash. Like you pretty much got to smash every single one to advance the quest,
Hmm.
which is a little annoying. Like it just if there were way more and it was easier to do.
Especially if the ones that are up high that you have to jump on boxes to get to, or have to have a missile weapon to shoot off the catwalk that you can't jump up on. That can be a pain.
Acid splash is great. It just blows everything up. Yeah, it. I will tell you though, for as little fun, and I haven't seen anyone who's like really a fan of it either. Like everyone that I've talked to or seen it, like they're all pretty much like this is not what we're used to in terms of quality of these. Like it's just not that fun. We don't like this one. I will tell you though. I mean, I was getting 70. I was 6-starring it and getting 72 ingredients in 7 minutes,
Hmm.
which is why I ran it more than once. Because it really felt more chory, but it was also kind of efficient.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't have anything else to say about it.
Yeah. Um. So I mean, the other option is the because it's apples appropriately. So the other option is I don't know why I said appropriately. They just kind of look like pumpkins, I guess. Anyways, the other one is grave
Well,
work,
it's
which I really
appropriate
like.
because of. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said the other option is grave work, which is the Minotaur
Oh,
one, which I
right.
like, but it's
It's long.
it's not so much as long. It's more work.
Hmm.
Like this quest, there was hardly you don't have to kill a whole bunch. It's mostly just smashing boxes, so it's um I don't know. It wasn't painful. It just wasn't fun.
Well, I like the Kobold's new ringleader more than I like this one. So
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. Um, and I don't really like Resurrection Chamber either.
no, can't stand it.
And that
Can't
one,
stand it.
but that one kind of has a different like. There's at least I don't know. It seems more fun, but more tedious. I guess you could say. Like this
Hmm.
one was not tedious. Smashing Pumpkins isn't tedious or a chore. It just isn't fun and enjoyable.
Right.
Whereas Resurrection Chamber is just kind of more of a tedious thing.
Right.
So we did get new items, which is mostly their weapons. So there was a
Hmm.
great crossbow,
Great axe,
great axe, and a warhammer
warhammer, and a longbow. So
and a
there were
longbow.
four new
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Well, there were 4 new things, but they're not. Uh, they're kind of in the same vein. I think they're all more or less the same stuff as the daggers, right?
Yes.
Um. So there's.
Yeah. There's spectral stuff. They're
Yep.
identical to all the other spectral weapons that were introduced last year or the year before, whenever it was.
I'm actually a little surprised that the crossbow wasn't like a light crossbow or a heavy crossbow. little surprised
Right.
that it was a great crossbow. Although that may have something to do with the fact that Inquisitives are, I think, shall we say, universally agreed upon overperforming relative to some other options. I don't know
I
if that's necessarily
guess.
true, but um,
I guess. I see some.
it's a
I see
popular
some YouTube.
opinion.
I see some YouTube videos, and one was just put out yesterday of a brunt smash, um, you know, display, and just the sheer amount of damage that this guy was doing on a Reaper 10 brunt smash test was just overly, was ridiculous. But I mean, the guy was activating all sorts of clickies
Sure.
and casting all sorts of spells and all sorts of doing. He was doing a lot to get the ability to do this. Um, so I am not at all convinced that the Inquisitive is as overperforming as some people would have us believe.
I've only played it once, and that was for my drunken hardcore character. And it was powerful. It felt good, but
Hmm.
it didn't really. And granted, this is from an experience of running it at like level 4 to 6 or 1 to 6, so take this with a grain of salt. But it didn't feel like it was like superly overly performing on other builds. I would say that it seemed to be better than other ranged options though. Um, like my experience with a bow user. Um,
Oh, a bow user for sure, for
just at those
sure.
levels just feels a lot more sloggy than it did
Yeah,
there. But
yeah.
um, so
I still think I think I still would take my great crossbow user over an inquisitive, quite frankly.
sure. But I like the variation of weapons that you can choose from for this because it was just a dagger was the only spectral weapon. I think there were other weapons that they added, but they do different things. So I really kind of liked that you had this option of you have more weapon options now.
Sure.
Uh, and I think especially when you're talking about like those level 4 versions, I think are really slick because those are levels where Ghost Touch is a little harder to come by.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you're running those
Yeah.
low level Reapers, those are great weapons. So
Sure. No, no, you definitely want the level 4 version of some of these weapons so that you can just have and specific purposes. The problem I have issues with like the level 28 versions of them. I mean, the level 28 versions are all plus 12 enhancement bonuses, and level 29 weapons are like up to plus 15, and I'm just wondering, is one level really worth, a plus 3 difference? Couldn't the level 28 versions of these spectral weapons be like plus 14 enhancement bonus, to hit and damage? I mean, is it really, is 12 really? And Steel Star mentioned that he didn't have a lot of time to make these weapons and that they're going to be pretty, you know, um,
cookie cutter.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so I understand that. But I think maybe you can look at them a little more closely next year and maybe just boost the enhancement bonus to hit and damage up a bit and make them better.
I would say though, if you're a newer returning player and you haven't done a lot of the newer content yet, I think the power to investment time is pretty good for
Now, I got a
to fill
question.
out your bag with.
Are these like the original daggers where you had to buy level 4 and then you have to upgrade it to level 8 and then
I don't think
level
so. I think you just
12?
buy it, don't you?
Oh, you can just buy it at level 28 outright?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Because the old spectral daggers, you had to buy them at the beginning
You had to
at
upgrade
4
them.
and then upgrade. So, yeah.
I would assume that they work the same. But I'm not in. I don't really remember having to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought you could
Maybe
just.
they changed them and they don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought you could just go right to it and just buy it, but it just cost more. I don't know. So
Well, maybe I'll try and find out.
someone that Fennec is in the chat that says he thinks you have to scale them up, but I remember it not being a great chore to do. I mean, the level like just looking at the Great Axe, the level 4 version is 60 chocolates, 20 apples, and 10 caramels.
Right.
So it really doesn't take much to do that. So yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about update 43 before we close out?
I just have a beef with key farming in the Night Revels. I did 6 runs last night with a full party of 6 at level 35. Did 6 full runs of that, and I got 1 key in 6 runs. 1 key.
Yeah, that's not a very good
And
ratio.
no, that sucked.
I greatly prefer the current version of key farming to what it was.
Sure.
I will say, though, that the one thing I don't like about it is I think it's way more efficient to solo key farm. Because then all the keys that drop go to you.
Go to
And
right.
it doesn't you do get a little bit fewer monsters for having just yourself, but it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. So you don't, with 2 players, you don't get double the monsters.
Right.
Right. So and I have actually someone mentioned that they seem to, in their runs, they seem to get more keys at level 30 than they did at level 35. So I've been trying that. I mean, I've been getting, and I'm pretty happy with the key rate farming that I've been getting at 30. So, and stuff's easier to kill, so that helps. But
sure, that helps. Yeah, maybe I'll give that a level 30. Do a level 30 run or 2 today.
Yeah, and I see, and again, like the thing that I don't like about it is way more efficient to solo farm keys. Like the quests you can do in groups, I haven't been, mostly for personal timing stuff going on around and just kind of not being able to like power through it as much, and kind of need to be on my own time scale. But yeah, key farming, like, it's unfortunate, but I think soloing it's the best way to go.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me today, Arkat. Thanks for everyone for listening. Anything you want to say on the way out? Plug anything?
No, nothing to plug.
All right. Check us out on DDOCast. We play together there. Have a lot of fun. It's great. Thanks to all the other contributors for DDOCast, and thanks to Standing Stone Games for making DDO, and Wizards of the Coast for letting them do it, and to Cyberbeers for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage, or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. And you can also hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be a part of the show, if you have a comment you'd like to comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, maybe there's a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, really could use some more topics to discuss, I'll just say that. Or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment, or you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on social media for latest cast updates at DDOcast on Twitter. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.